On the evening of December 28, 2017, Andrew Finch, an unarmed and entirely innocent man, was gunned down by the Wichita police force in the doorway of his own home in Wichita, Kansas. However, the events leading up to this travesty had nothing to do with Andrew Finch himself, his family, or even the entire police force that showed up on his property. Instead, this was the result of a Call of Duty match gone wrong, a $1.50 wager, and a degenerate who had no moral compass whatsoever. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Dark Narratives. I'm Ben. On this channel, we cover a lot of true crime stories as well as generally dark topics. If this piques your interest, then consider subscribing to my channel. It would also be great to just get a thumbs up on this video because this kind of content takes hours of work with regards to research and fact-checking. Without further ado, let's get into the sad tragedy of Tyler Barris and Andrew Finch. Tyler Barris, better known as SWATistic, was born on November 9, 1992. He was a boy who grew up in Los Angeles, California. At an early age, his father passed away, leaving his mother to raise him. Instead of raising him as her son, she abandoned him and left him to grow up with his grandmother taking care of him. Originally, Tyler wanted to become a professional gamer for the Halo franchise. This aspiration never manifested itself, and with time, he began swatting people that he played with and against online in Halo after he himself was swatted by someone else online. Thus, he felt euphoric when he discovered that he could manipulate law enforcement into reacting violently towards people that he disliked online. Out of sight, out of mind? This guy didn't think so. And sooner or later, someone was bound to get hurt. Just in case it needs explaining, swatting is the practice of a nefarious actor calling law enforcement personnel and informing them under false pretenses that said nefarious actor has committed a crime or is in the process of committing a serious crime at a specific location, requiring immediate response from a SWAT team to intervene at a location where absolutely nothing unlawful is happening, hence the term swatting. Victims of swatting, at best, might suffer temporary mental trauma, while others suffer bodily injury and property damage. Until this case, that is. First, it would be wise to cover all of Tyler's criminal activity, and that's exactly what we're going to do now. In September of 2015, having called in several bomb threats and false swattings already, Tyler was well seasoned in his criminal acts and becoming bored with simply making headlines and running Twitter accounts where he would regularly take credit for manipulating law enforcement into disturbing the peace of mind of ordinary law-abiding citizens, gamers, and schools alike. He was watching a news station as they reported on a bomb threat he had made to a school earlier that day. Then, he suddenly boasted to his grandmother saying, "I bet I can clear out this news station's building."
It's unusual for those who report the news to become the news. Well, that's what happened today to the staff at KABC in Southern California. The station had to do its 4 o'clock newscast from a lawn down the street after a bomb threat forced everyone in that building to evacuate.
Tyler's grandmother knew that he had done this and then confronted him about it, and Tyler's response to his grandmother was to tell her not to tell anyone else about this, otherwise he would beat her face bloody, in his own words. Tyler's grandmother secretly confided in a long-time friend of hers who was also a college campus police officer, and from there Tyler had a restraining order filed against him by his grandmother, and he was charged with domestic violence and making false bomb threats against KABC-TV, an elementary school in Los Angeles, and another junior high school in Granada Hills, California. He pled guilty to the charges against him and was sentenced to 2 years in the Men's Central Jail of LA. After 16 months, Tyler was released from his lockup situation. However, having no real friends and no one else he could think of at the time, he went back to his grandmother's home. Yes, the last family member willing to take care of him, who also filed a restraining order against him. Unsurprisingly, he was taken back to jail from the time frame of January 17 to August of that year. Now, you would think at this point in time, after 2 stints in the correctional system, someone with such a criminal record would have learned what they can and cannot do for the benefit of society, as well as for the betterment of themselves. But not Tyler. This time, when Tyler was released from jail, he began living in a homeless shelter that was located near a library and would regularly go to the library to access the Wi-Fi and continue his swatting operations. sometimes for his own financial benefit. Tyler would usually charge someone anywhere from $20 to $50 to swat a target, depending on how friendly and familiar he was with the person who was paying him to swat a proposed innocent person. 4 months after Tyler was released from jail, two gamers were playing a wager match for Call of Duty World War II. Shane Gaskill, age 25, a resident of Cincinnati, Ohio, and Casey Viner, a resident of Wichita, Kansas, who could have been as young as 17 at the time. During the course of this wager match, which was for $1.50, Shane accidentally team-killed Casey Viner, later losing the match. After the match, Gaskill and Viner were both arguing furiously online about this, and Gaskill provides Viner with a previous residential address, taunting and shaming the younger gamer for being too afraid to do anything to him. In all likelihood, this was just Gaskill trying to act big and tough and say, "I'm not afraid of you," because the distance between Cincinnati, Ohio and Wichita, Kansas requires approximately 12 hours of driving time. However, I did just say previous residential address, meaning that Shane no longer lived there. By now, quite likely very angry, Casey Viner then gave the residential address to Tyler Barris, taunting him and saying that he would be too afraid to do anything to anyone living at that residential address, and saying that he was living at that residential address at the time. Tyler took the bait and then called in a SWAT team to the address that he was provided with. When police arrived at the address provided on the evening of December 28, 2017, a small group of family and friends were enjoying some TV and calm, quiet conversations with one another when they heard police speakers telling them to leave their house with their hands up. This was the Finch residence. Andrew Finch opened his front door, greeted by countless police officers staring at him through the sights of their AR-15s. Less than 7 seconds after making himself visible, and with no particularly understood reason, one shot was fired on Andrew Finch. Andrew then fell to the ground, struggling to breathe for roughly 20 minutes without any medical attention, while officers detained everyone in the home for questioning. Perhaps the worst part of this ordeal is that there was only one way in and one way out of the Finch residence, meaning that during the time Andrew Finch was struggling to breathe, his family and friends, who were wrongly placed under arrest, as well as the arresting officers, were forced to step over him at this time, and absolutely zero potentially life-saving medical attention was given to him while all of this was happening. It wasn't until having all of the family and friends of Andrew Finch at the Kansas Police Department for questioning that answers came to light. While interrogating everyone in the home, the police learned that there was absolutely no criminal activity taking place at the Finch residence whatsoever. Conversely, everyone in the home had learned that Andrew had passed away. Many of you may be wondering, how was an unarmed man shot and killed in the front door of his own home? Although legally speaking, no name has been officially released by the Wichita Police Department, the local media began circulating one name: Officer Justin Rapp. Officer Rapp has had more than one report placed against him for using excessive force, all without being reprimanded prior to this incident. Tyler Barris called into an episode of Keemstar's YouTube program, Drama Alert. From there, law enforcement recognized his voice, put 2 and 2 together, arrested him, and extradited him to Kansas, where he was charged with involuntary manslaughter. On October 26, 2018, a total of 51 more charges were brought forth to him, including conspiracy to make false reports, false information and hoaxes, cyberstalking resulting in death, making threats of death or damage to property by fire, interstate threats, and wire fraud. He pled guilty to all of these charges to receive a maximum of 20 years in prison. He is scheduled to be released from prison on January 14, 2035. Shane Gaskill struck a deal with prosecutors where he paid $1,000 to the victims in exchange for a pretrial diversion, where he would avoid criminal sentencing altogether for 18 months' time. During this time frame, however, he violated the terms of his pretrial diversion and was taken to trial, where he pled guilty to 1 count of wire fraud in May of 2022 and was sentenced to 18 months in prison in September of 2022. Justin Rapp, the police officer who shot Andrew Finch, was given a promotion in the Wichita PD, then found himself in civil court for the wrongful death of Andrew. There are news reports online that he is no longer on the Wichita PD and now works at a college as a police officer there. Andrew Finch was the biological uncle of his deceased sister's son. His sister had passed away in a car accident when they were very young, and he became the figurative glue to his family. But he was even more than that. He was the father figure of his sister's children. They were all very close, and Andrew was a well-loved man by his family. Without him, there was a sudden and massive void in the family, a shock to the community, and family members with broken hearts. 1 year and 2 weeks after the passing of Andrew, his niece, Adeline Finch, took her own life. I wish this would be the end of the bad news, but 2 months later, at the end of March 2019, Adelina's boyfriend also took his own life, very likely distraught with the loss of his own girlfriend. In a sort of sick butterfly effect, we can see that without a doubt the actions of Tyler Barris led to the deaths of 3 innocent people in total. Generally speaking, every day is a new day to become a better human being and an opportunity to turn over a new leaf and change the way you act towards, talk to, and treat others. Tyler Barris was a human being that either didn't or couldn't see the light and tried to improve his life. Even after 2 stints in correctional facilities, he did not learn his lesson. His actions led to the deaths of 3 innocent people. Immediately upon discovering Andrew Finch's death, Tyler denied any responsibility, saying that he was not the one who pulled the trigger. What's worse is, even some time after he began serving his prison sentence, we see tweets from prison where he's threatening to SWAT others. I think we can all agree that culpability falls on all 4 of the parties involved: Tyler Barris, Justin Rapp, Casey Viner, and Shane Gaskill. But I want to know who you think is most responsible. Please tell me in the comments below. To this day, the family of Andrew Finch still want justice from Justin Rapp. If you thought this was a story worth listening to, then please consider liking this video. I'm going to try my best to upload to this channel twice weekly on Wednesdays and Saturdays. Also, if you have a suggested story or case that I can look into and report on this channel, then please be sure to let me know in the comments below. This has been Dark Narratives, and remember that every day is a new opportunity to see the light. Remember to keep your loved ones loved, your friends friendly, and until next time, goodbye.